Hi guys, and welcome back for yet another exciting art project and tutorial, sort of. Today, I'll be showing you how I painted and basically created my own skateboard deck art. I'll be showing you exactly how I did that and how you can do that yourself, and also give you some of my art tips that I have for you. This video did take me much longer to make than I expected, and that's because I kind of got busy in my personal life. Thankfully, now we're here, the video's finished. I won't keep you waiting any longer. Let's just get right into it. I start as usual by making my workspace cozy and comfortable. Now it's time for the brainstorming. So I grab my deck, study it a bit, and then move on to creating a vision/idea. I often use older sketchbooks for inspiration and art ideas because sometimes you'll create things in the moment that you might not use immediately, but they'll be useful later on. If you guys would like a sketchbook tour, let me know down in the comments below. I'd absolutely love to make one. Still have my sketchbooks from art college as well. For now, let's keep looking until we can finally find an idea to work with. So as you can see, I drew a bunch of different eyes. What my attention went to is this eye right here. This eye right here really looks interesting to me because look at the pupil inside. I'm already thinking about different ideas of how I can incorporate this into maybe a creature with some galaxy eyes who has different planets as pupils. And yes, I love this. I can work with this. I was pretty happy with what I found. Then I realized I had already done a little skateboard design in my sketchbook before, and I really enjoyed the feeling it gave me. It's a simple concept, so I decided to just go for it. I decided to continue sketching on my art tablet, so I made some photos of the deck to sketch on top of that in Photoshop. This method makes it easier for me. While drawing, I always have something on in the background, and today it's SpongeBob. Make sure you eat enough protein too. It really does help with brainstorming. I traced my sketch, then I placed it on top of the photo that I took, and I then let my creativity flow. I wanted to convey that even complicated creatures deserve healing and love. I tried to show this with one of my toad creatures, healing a scary, grotesque, yet cute big octopus. I'm not saying octopuses are problematic, by the way. Honestly, I also just wanted to create a cool yellow toad character, since I've never made a yellow one before. I figured this was a nice excuse, so why not? I decided not to add colors to the sketch because I planned to figure out the colors as I painted. I'll talk more about that later in the video, so keep watching. All I decided at the stage was the background color. Next, it's time to prep the skateboard deck. You prep your skateboard deck by sandpapering it until it's almost dull and the gloss and shine are gone. After that, we need to prime the deck so the paint will stick. I add around 4 layers of gesso as primer, but I recommend adding more than that. After drying, I sandpaper it for a smoother surface, getting it ready for the next step, which is spray painting the background. I rarely use spray bottles or spray paint because it scares me, honestly. It's a medium I still need to practice more with. But I decided to just go for it and try to make a nice faded sky background. I lightly sprayed the top, working my way down, making sure my arm moved further away from the board the lower I went. I was really surprised how well it turned out. After the paint has dried, it's time to prep the skateboard deck again. After spray painting, you'll want to add a little gloss medium so that your paint will also stick to the spray paint. I add one layer on top and that should be fine, honestly. I decided to project my art with a projector onto the skateboard deck, and I wasn't smart enough to put it on a chair for easier access, so I had to lie on the ground uncomfortably. Don't do that, guys. Be smart. I ended up using a paint marker because it was much easier to see on the board and also through the projector. Plus, you're going to paint over it anyways, so it doesn't really matter. Thankfully, with the sketch part, you don't have to be fully precise since acrylic paint is very forgiving. If you make a mistake, you can just paint over it. Then we finally arrive at the painting part. Okay, so we finally are done adding some of the sketches and the line work onto the skateboard deck. Now it's actually time to paint it in and add some crazy colors. I set up my painting station and used golden acrylics and Amsterdam acrylics for this project. I'll list the materials used in the description down below. I decided to start with one of the tentacles first, as I already knew what color I wanted them to be. I wanted to create a bright and slightly warm yellow with pinkish red shadowy tones. Mixing paint is satisfying, but I always end up with either too much or too little mixed paint. I think it's just part of the whole art process at this point. When painting, I always think in layers. You layer light colors on top of dark ones until you get it right, or the other way around. Be patient with your painting. The more brush strokes and layers of paint, the better it can look. I noticed the difference with some colors when it comes to layering though. For example, neon colors often take much longer to get right, and the same goes for the color red. I have to layer those more often than other colors. When layering and blending, I make sure to have at least 3 different shades of the same color to blend my light and shadows better. I got some references on my phone ready for some clouds, aiming for a nice warm look, almost like cotton candy mixed with the setting sun. Pay close attention to see how I layered my paints and how the paint dries. When blending paints, to get a light or shadow effect, I blend and mix the paint when it has slightly dried. You need to find that sweet spot between fully wet and dry paint. It's in that area that allows for the best mixing and blending, in my opinion. There have been plenty of times where I try to create a shadow and my blending just goes awful, so I wait for it to dry and then start over. That's honestly the nice thing about acrylics, you can always repaint and try again. Creating art requires patience and kindness towards yourself and your work. Mistakes happen. What matters is how you deal with those mistakes. Sometimes little mistakes can make the artwork even better. Accept that they will happen and know that it's okay. Just keep going. I wanted this toad to not be alone on their healing quest, so I made sure they have a companion, a witch who is a bit tired but still gladly helps to heal others. They are in a weird mind coexistent relationship where they are connected and influence each other, unable to survive without the other in a way. It's like both their life forces are connected. That's the story I have. As I was working, I realized I didn't like the choice of green and pink. So I tried a bluish purple color and was instantly more satisfied. Sometimes you need to play around and try different colors. You never really know what you might end up with. I often come up with colors on the spot, but even I have to backtrack and change a color choice sometimes. That's my tip for today. Experiment with different colors to see what works better. Yes, it takes more time, but it helps you understand what works together in the future. The fun of painting is the almost endless experimentation you can do. Around this time, I started to get a bit frustrated with how long this deck was taking me. My mural, which was 4 by 8 meters that I painted this year, took me less than a month to paint. But I've been on this skateboard deck now for more than 4 months. I think it's due to several reasons, honestly. Not adding enough primer layers in the beginning, personal business in my life, and also using so many neon colors, which require more layering, which also takes more time. I ended up pushing through the frustration, understanding that I'd be frustrated anyways, so I might as well just keep going and finish it. Let's enjoy this little time lapse and just get painting. So I know that when I worked on this like design and concept digitally, I didn't like color it in yet. That's because I decided that I would come up with the colors on the spot. And I'm going to try to explain to you guys how I sort of try to do that in my own way. I'm someone who really like follows their like gut and their intuition a lot. So like I will have like a certain feeling for a certain color, and it's like almost like a nagging feeling telling me to put that into the art piece. For now, for instance, I can tell already in this area that it lacks red. I know I'm gonna add like red right here, and I hope that's gonna help it, but I feel like it needs more red than just this little area. I'm thinking about putting red somewhere along this area, and I also need to keep in mind that this and this is going to be green because this is still the leg from the frog. So I have to keep that in mind and make sure that I pick the right colors for the right contrast. I'm having another intuition moment telling me that this eyeball right here, I'm feeling it should be yellow. I feel like a nice, almost like neon yellow is going to be such a nice contrast with the pink into the purple right here up into the fish and the yellow green frog toad thing. I really just kind of look at the spaces and I'm kind of feeling around like, oh, I'm feeling like there's a lot of like red tints and it needs the opposite of that. So it needs more blue. And then while I'm adding that, I'm realizing, oh, it needs more green. But then I'm realizing I have too many like blue and green tints. It needs yellow on top of that to balance that out and have like a nice contrast between the three. I don't know if I'm making sense, but this is kind of like how my brain goes and processes this whole like coloring process. I also sometimes have moments where I decide to paint something a certain color, and then afterwards I realize it's not the right color and I change it. And that's totally fine. That's the great thing about paint, is that you can just continuously keep trying and paint over your mistakes until you're happy with the results. For now, I'm really going to try to focus more on this huge octopus underneath before I continue with the leg, because it's just going to be a bit easier to paint if I first paint the background and then like move up to the leg, which is over the octopus. Oh my god, often when I talk, I literally like cannot tell if I'm like coherent and understandable. Like I feel like I talk like a monkey. Like I feel like ooh ah is basically what I'm saying. But I hope this makes sense, and I hope at least it's entertaining. So yeah, let's just continue this. Okay, so as I've been sitting here painting, having a good time, I look over and I see this right here. As you can see, it's like kind of messed up, and it's because I had this blob of paint, wet paint, on my fucking shirt. And yeah, I during painting apparently just rubbed it all over this area, and then I tried to clean it up and I messed it up more. So I figured why not just share this little moment, because stuff like this happens during art making like all the time as well. It's normal, but it's heartbreaking each time anyways. So let's get over the heartbreak. Let's try to fix what we can. Okay, let's fix this up. It ended up not being as bad as it could have been. I fixed most of it off camera, but from what you can see, I was able to restore the paint and make it look like nothing happened. I wanted to add some gold paint, so I gave him a golden toe ring to spice up his look. Now it's time for the final paint finishes. I don't clean up my edges too much because I'll finish it all off with a paint marker to add line art in the end. Speaking of paint markers, we are finally done with the painting part, so it's time for me to have fun with the line art. The line art brings the whole artwork together and makes it pop, adding more character and telling the story of the piece. Adding the line art always feels like adding the final puzzle piece. I always use Molotow markers for my line art. I struggle with maintaining them because they always end up clogging and I can't use the tips anymore. I'm trying to find ways to restore them and will share that info with you all once I do. These paint markers aren't cheap, so I'd like to save you some money, and me. I expected this part to be hard since the board isn't perfectly flat, but it was surprisingly easy to work with. I had to be careful with pressure to avoid paint spillage. If I was gonna spill any paint at this stage of the art making, I'd probably end up crying. I finished adding the line art to the front and then did the back, going with simple galaxy stars. Always make sure you put your name, the date, your autograph, and the name of your piece on your artwork. We need to seal in and protect the skateboard deck, so I use a varnish spray to seal in the paint and line work. I also wanted to try brushing on varnish, so I sprayed 2 layers of varnish first. You want to spray beforehand to prevent smearing when using a brush, especially when you use paint markers. Once it's dry, I take photos for my portfolio. Always try to do this step before adding a gloss varnish. After drying, we finally get to see the deck in its full glory. I genuinely love how this character and piece turned out. What do you guys think? It took so long to create, but it was all so worth it. What a fun and exciting project to do. Now let's enjoy some of the art shots. Alright everyone, so here it is. Here's my fully finished skateboard deck, my first one. Honestly, it was a blast to work on this project, even though it did take so long. And I would honestly love to do more decks in the future, just like maybe a series of like 3 different skateboard decks, all telling a different story. I think that would be pretty cool. Anyways, I hope you found this video interesting and inspiring to watch. Let me know down in the comments below what you might like to see next. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more art tutorials, tips, and inspiration next. And as always, stay creative.